I'm gonna pull this one because I want to see. Oh my. Oh my. Would you look at that? Good morning, everybody. Something I've been thinking about a lot, and I just recently watched Son-in-Law, one of my top 10 favorite movies of all times, but it made me think about, like, how should we be acting in our gardens? So we're gonna kind of talk about that a little bit and do a little comparison, and then we're gonna do a little bit of fertilizing. I've got some plants that need specific kinds of fertilizer, so we're gonna do that. And I also needed to make a correction or an announcement. Last video I talked about what we're gonna be planting in June, and I did forget to mention that we're gonna be starting all of our perennials for next year starting in June, and I'm gonna tell you why. So I've been doing this for a couple years where I plant my perennials in the fall, and I try to only plant them in the fall because I get them in early enough where they can kind of sit and get comfortable in the soil, and over the winter their roots will still continue to grow. So I just kind of use that as a benchmark for me. It saves me space in the spring, gives me something to do this time of year, and along with propagating different perennials and stuff like that, I can get them all on the ground and really get them going so they can get nice and comfortable. And then, you know, the old saying, the first year it sleeps, second year it creeps, and the third year it leaps. We can kind of minimize that to a little bit and get to that leap phase a little sooner. So if you hear the buzzing in the background, my neighbor is cutting the field next door, so just sorry about that. But I was out, and I'm sitting next to my hive that is yet to be filled. And another thing I learned about this is it's better to start with 2 hives. So I went and got another hive, and I was painting it over the weekend, and that song, It's Good to Be a Country Boy, came on, which is in Son-in-Law. Now I'm gonna go ahead and say this. If you haven't seen Son-in-Law, go ahead, stop the video, go watch it. It's one of my top 10 favorite comedy movies, and it's a great show. It's family friendly. It's, you know, just a good thing to watch. But I started thinking about it, and I was like, on this hand, we could be like Pauly Shore and have fun, be creative in our gardens, take it easy, and just enjoy it. Or on this hand, we could be the old school farmer who's got everything under control. He's got it figured out. He's got a perfect plan. He's gonna execute it. He's gonna manage all his problems and pests at all time. And he's gonna work hard, and he's gonna be productive. A Pauly Shore may not be totally productive. Let's not get it twisted. But I think he's gonna have a lot of fun in his garden, and I'm an advocate for that. Would you look at that guy? Man, that's a big old something. Now, I think that movie portrayed the beginning gardener or farmer very well. And then there's one scene in particular that comes into mind, and that's when he scared the chicken. Ooh, that hurt my throat. So I'm out here by my chickens. You gotta think about it. If a city boy comes into the country for the first time, stuff must be wild, and it is wild. I mean, look, we're out here by these chickens, and they just do their thing, and to me, it's totally normal. But if you've never been around them, it's wild. And we have people come over and look at them all the time and touch them and rub them, and it's all just crazy. Now, when I started growing, they freaked out and started eating food. Don't know why that is. But we also have these 2 little girls that we picked up to finish out our flock. So they're a Houdan mix. They'll have like the weird puffy feathers on their head and stuff, and just for fun and giggles. But I mean, seriously, when it comes down to it, and you're working in your garden and your farm, whatever you want to call it, your homestead, it's all about having fun, right? So I get a lot of questions, and sometimes I get comments, and I've seen them on our Facebook group and stuff where it's like, I see this egg, oh my God, what do I do? And it's like, you know, my first reaction is like, okay, let's take it easy and just relax and have fun with it. Like, you're gonna have some losses, that's for sure. And if you don't, then you definitely nailed it, but I would go to say that you're just being lucky. But if you watch throughout the movie, I mean, the guy is just having a blast being a farmer, man. There's just, you know, he's strapping on his rollerblades and he's feeding the pigs, albeit not enough food for the pigs, but that's a different story. You know, he's plowing the fields, he's writing his name, crawling the corn, which probably wouldn't recommend either, but you know, it's a movie. What can we say? He's listening to good music, he's eating fried chicken. I mean, seriously, who don't love fried chicken? I'm just saying. And so when we go through the whole thing, it's like, it's a great inspiration to me to have fun in my garden. And then when we watch it, it's like, hey, don't take this stuff so seriously, man. I mean, look, yeah, we're trying to grow food and we're trying to grow enough to feed our family and enjoy it. But at the same time, it doesn't have to be like a regimented process. You know, have fun, relax, let it happen, go with the flow. And more importantly, be creative. Be the first to admit, I'm creative in my own right in certain ways, but if you look through my garden, like, this is the stuff I like to do and this is fun to me, like building this trellis. This was fun to me. I like it, especially now that I got one that made it. So building the trellises, you know, putting up the arches, that was a big deal for me. But getting those set up, painting the beehive, picking different colors for the beehives, you know, laying out the garden so you can see it in the way you want to see it. These are all things that I find fun, and it doesn't have to be a big deal. So now for the record, this beehive right here, this one's blue and the next one's orange. So you can see we're going with contrasting colors throughout. So that's going to be kind of fun to have. Add a little splash of color to the garden and just enjoy it. So before we start fertilizing and stuff, which I definitely need to do because we want to make sure we get the most out of what we're growing, just ask yourself, are you going to be more like Crawl, or are you going to be more like, I don't know, some standard farmer that's just like the old school guy or gal with the overalls and the rough hat and just all business and no pleasure. So, and even in that movie, they portrayed that just right. And at the end of it, spoiler alert, I told you to go watch the movie, they all ended up having fun. And that's what it's all about. But on the business end of things, we do have this corn here that needs to be fed and taken care of because we need to push it a little higher. That's another thing I find fun, is that I can control the growth rate of my plants by pushing them certain nutrients and stuff like that to get them up and going and keep them happy. And then the other part is like getting the most harvest out of them. So we're gonna feed our corn, and then we're gonna come around and add a couple things to the squashes and also my containers. I believe it's about time to feed those a little bit. They look like they're kind of struggling. So we're just gonna give them a little love and care. If you guys have seen me watch any of the videos in the past couple weeks and I've been out and you've noticed me limping a little bit, I broke 2 bones in my toe surfing not too long ago, so I'm like on the recovery process. So I just kind of been dealing with that, which has been a real pain. But I don't know, you gotta pay to play, right? And I like to play hard. So when we surf, we go all out, and yeah, 2 broken bones is what it is. Hopefully I'll get clearance to get back up in the water, maybe today or next week, we'll see. But yeah, it's definitely hindered me to an extent out here. All right, so here's the situation. This bed right here, it's got corn in it. It's young corn, and I've had to seed it multiple times because I had some skips and stuff like that. I'm done seeding it. I still got a couple skips, which is just, you know, holes based in there. But I'm having a little bit of a hard time figuring out what the young corn is from like the crabgrass, because believe it or not, it seems to look pretty similar. So we're gonna go ahead and feed it so we can get the corn to kind of jump up, and then we can come through and give it a good weeding and mulch it and all that. But it's important to realize that not all plants get fertilized the same. and corn is one that's going to be a little bit different. This corn requires higher nitrogen. In order, you got to get as much green as possible in order to get the ears. So we're going to use, I'm going to use a bunch of stuff actually. I'm going to put some of this blood meal in, which is pure nitrogen. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to add a balanced fertilizer, which this is just 10-10-10. And then in order to get it ready, start getting ready to plant for next season, I'm going to start adding these alfalfa pellets in, and that's just, kind of rebuild the soil slowly. So since nitrogen is water soluble, those alfalfa pellets will continue to break down, and it's not like a quick feeder by any means, it's just real slow. But everything else we're going to put right on top, and then I'm going to come back with a hoe and just scratch it right in. And not everything's going to get high nitrogen. You wouldn't want to give your tomatoes high nitrogen because then you're just going to get a lot of foliage. And we balance that out by using that well-balanced fertilizer. So in the beginning, we definitely want to get that foliage up and going, but then afterwards, it's really about getting that fruit production going and keeping it moving in the right direction. And that's where all of these different products kind of come in. You don't have to use the blood meal. You could use like a little bit higher nitrogen fertilizer, like a 10-8-8 or something. I just like to do it, and it's something I've been doing. I don't really hold fast to it. If I didn't have it, I wouldn't rush to the store and go get it. I'm not even gonna really measure this. I'm just gonna kind of go down the line. In between each row, give it a sprinkle. And I don't really measure a crazy amount either, so just kind of go with the flow, you know what I mean? So you can see we put a good dusting on here, and then I came back. You can see like all of this is just the fertilizer, and then you can see the pellets where I just kind of did a light sprinkling, and when they get wet, they'll actually break open and expand and then continue to do their job. So we'll take the hoe here in just a second, and I probably won't do it on camera, but I'm just going to scratch the surface a little bit and get everything kind of worked in there and get it all kind of built in. And it's supposed to rain in a couple of days. We're supposed to get like a little piece of a tropical system. So we'll come in, and when that rains, it'll start to break open and just start that process. We're not overly worried about that stuff at all. But the pepper bed and the tomato bed, we are going to just put a well-balanced fertilizer in there, the 10-10-10, and then the same with these containers, but I actually think I'm gonna do something a little bit different, and I'll show you why. So I came out here the other day and moved these tomatoes forward about a foot, and they should actually get like 2 more hours of sun that way. But you can see how this one's kind of lacking in foliage, and that one's doing a little bit better, but not as good as the other ones. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna put a little bit of that blood meal in there as well, just to kind of boost it back up. It takes a couple weeks for that stuff to kick in, and organic fertilizers, you don't really start to notice until about 2 weeks after application, so I'm gonna stay a little bit ahead of it. But I think if it doesn't really help those tomatoes, then it'll help the next crop. And so we just kind of wanna stay ahead of that. At this point, we are not feeding our potatoes, our onions, or the other bed of potatoes. Everything else out here. So if we come over here, I'll show you. We're gonna go ahead in this sweet potato bed today. I'm gonna put the same thing minus the blood meal in this bed because we're gonna mulch it soon. And then we're gonna put a well-balanced fertilizer here. We're gonna just leave these alone, not touch them. And then back here in this carrot bed, what I'm gonna do, carrot, husk tomato, lima bean, cucumber, and cantaloupe bed, is we're just gonna put a well-balanced fertilizer in here, minus the carrot row. We're just gonna not put it on the carrots. I mean, yes, as it breaks down, the roots will find the food, but it's not like a direct feeding of them, so we don't wanna do too much of that. And I'll probably do roughly 2 cups per bed. And then for each pot, I'm just gonna put like a big handful in. That's it. I don't really measure, I don't do anything crazy like that. I just kind of add it and then I keep my eye on it and watch it. And I'm going to as well, actually right now, let's check and see how this garlic's doing. So I've been eyeballing this garlic and it's looking mighty purty and it's getting super close. And this one in particular had a hard time because of the ants. So I just kind of made the soil collapse. I got rid of them, but they just made the soil collapse. So I'm gonna pull this one because I wanna see, oh my. Oh my, would you look at that? Would you look at that grocery store garlic? That's just one bulb. I am ecstatic about that. So we've got a little bit of separation. We've probably got another 15, 20 days worth of growing on these, but they are showing signs. But would you look at that? Goodbye.